which she was even fine with for a year later in BK. By the way, again, I'd like to reiterate, in this conversation, Seth continuously acknowledges that these events took place, yet in other conversations, he tries to argue that these screenshots are faked. So again, Seth, which is it? Are they fake, or did they happen and they were just jokes? Or maybe, again, you're just lying to suit your interests, right? Kanna replies, so I will take that as a no. Yes, we are definitely not cool. Then, pretty simple. I mean, you could have at very least looked to apologize for your sexualization of minors, even for memes. Do better as a person. Lol, making excuses does not get you anywhere. And Trey makes a very good point here. In fact, he makes many good points where he talks about joking, right? And how that isn't excusable, even if it is a joke. But we'll cover that more ourselves later. But good on you, Trini. You're right about that. And he's actually still consistent on that particular point as well. So there's that. What strikes us as odd about this conversation, though, is that Seth never attempts to dispute his age by claiming he was a minor. If that were true, this would have been a surefire way of getting out of moral culpability, because if Seth was 16 himself or a minor himself, obviously it's not ethically wrong for him to be engaging with another minor, at least not to the same degree anyways, if they're the same age, right? I don't think that there's necessarily anything wrong with that. That's what happens in high school, right? But the issue is that he didn't use that as an excuse, even though that would have been a surefire way to get out of culpability. So that seems to suggest pretty concretely that he's an adult. So we can all agree that Seth is a normal functioning human, right? Or at least to an extent, maybe not his sexual tendencies, but besides that, he's a normal functioning human. So it would be logical for him to take that course of action, but he did not. So that again is more evidence that supports that Seth was in fact an adult when these things took place, if Seth's own estimation of his age wasn't enough evidence. So YouTube monetization. Monetization on YouTube requires that the user make an AdSense account. AdSense requires the user to be 18 with an active bank account. If the user is a minor, they can have their parent or guardian sign up for their account. This is the monetization policy from 2016 as viewed on the Wayback Machine. We managed to track down Seth's earliest monetized video, which is also from 2016. We can dismiss the idea of his legal guardians creating the AdSense account as Seth himself in earlier court-recorded conversation gave an estimation of his own age that seems to line up with the idea that he turned 18 in 2016. And a friend of his, Rafaniak ZX's attestation, both corroborate the claim of him turning 18 in 2016. Rafaniak ZX's testimonial. Rafaniak ZX was an old friend of Seth, dating back as far as 2015. He co-owned Battle Kingdom and Emperor's Palace with Seth for a time, and the two were relatively close at one point. Raph initially provided an estimation of Seth's age, citing that he felt the need to respect his privacy. But upon reflection, he decided to give all of the information he had, and his attestation of Seth's age once again corroborates 2016, most likely being the date of his adulthood. And this screenshot is kind of long, so I'm not going to read out the entire thing, but again, this is a document. You are welcome to read everything in full detail as much as you want. That's the beautiful thing about a document. Raph states that he seems to recall being proud of Seth turning 18 all the way back when we used to use Kik. So for those who don't know, Kik still is a messaging app that you can use to talk to people. It was popular from about the years probably 2013 to 2015, 2016-ish in general. But in the time that I recall Rafaniak and Seth using it, because I was also in these chats myself, the height of its usage was between 2015 and 2016. And Rafaniak wasn't using it long after that himself. He kind of stopped around the end of 2016, maybe a little bit into 2017. So it seems, if he remembers Seth turning 18 in the Kik days, which ranges from a date of 2015 to 2016, we have Seth give an age estimate that seems to corroborate 2016 as well. And we also have the AdSense monetization, which additionally supports that, as well as us being able to infer that he was in fact an adult by his conversation with with Trini, Seth's conversation with Trini, we can pretty decisively place his age within a range of essentially 2 to 3 years at best. And I understand and acknowledge that individually these points are not conclusive, right? But as a collective, along with Seth's own range of his estimated ages, we can give a bare minimum age, and that is he turned 18 in 2016. This sort of argument is necessary as Seth's age is purposefully elusive, as stated at the beginning of this category. So now we get to the miscellaneous information portion. This section will deal with minor points that don't fit anywhere else. We have already substantiated our position on Seth in other areas, ignoring our counter arguments, which we will get to after this. We do not believe that we are not reliant on the information that will be presented here at all. This is simply additional information that might provide more context. And these claims won't be as concrete as other claims either. So take them how you will. Others have stated they have shared similar experiences with Seth that Satire and Avasumi have. One of those users is Furvans. Furvans was a friend of Seth who collaborated with him and Chuck on various video projects, or rather one video project, let me say that, in the past. And that video is reading stupid and mean comments with friends. And the link is in the document, and you can also search it up on YouTube as well. It's one of Seth's, it's like a relatively popular Seth video for the topic that it covers, right? It's not covering any anime, so yeah. She is credited in the description as being Furvans. We have a video recording of her chat discussing her experiences with Seth in a textual form. And I also posted screenshots here for those who don't really want to watch the video but want to get the gist of it. And this next session was added after the document was finalized, so therefore we'll use an alphabetic system to track screenshots, which is kind of a way that I kind of went about it afterwards. I hope I have screenshots to help support you too. Shoot me with the things you want to talk about. Do you know what age he said he was to you? And the answer to that question is in the video. I didn't put it here because I didn't want to put the entire contents of the video in screenshot form because, well, just watch the video, right? It's only like 10 seconds or whatever. Furvan says, I have some old screenies on my last laptop that may help. I wish you a success in saving that poor girl from being terrorized by that scum. Thank you. I was in one of his YouTube videos. Wouldn't my word or telling of Seth be compelling evidence? Got it. I'll do my best. If we look at the video, we can just pull it up real quick. It's 15 seconds. You can see the initial part of their screen, their conversation. I need to ask you some questions. Go ahead. I need to ask you some stuff about Seth. I want you to be honest with me because the man is pretending to be 15. That's when he was joking about his age being 15 on social media or whatever. And now I'm worried that another girl is going to be groomed. Which, if a YouTuber is going around calling himself 15, that's pretty suspect, especially if they have a history of this sort of predatory behavior. Seth is such a pedophile. That's what she says. I hope I have screenshots to help support you too, and that's the part I read earlier. She says, when I was 16, I believe he was 21. Unfortunately, I deleted my Hangouts chat with him. I know I have some old screenshots on my old laptop. I'll check them out, but I doubt it'll be much. Most of what I have on the guy was said vocally and didn't go through the trouble of recording. What year were you born again? 1999. Yeah. So that conversation, you can read over the specifics again if you desire. It's only a 15-second video, so go right ahead and do so. Provence, however, did not provide any examples as she did not access her old laptop, and it isn't easy to access, I assume. Due to unrelated circumstances as well, there was no contact made after this point. This is the primary reason this resides in this section. She admits her accusations aren't as easily substantiated. We still consider this noteworthy, as we previously established that Seth has a discernible, provable predatory pattern of behavior, which is in line with her experience, and that lends it greater credibility. So next section, but it's still in the miscellaneous category. While we won't be arguing that these screenshots in particular are serious, this shit does not bode well given the rest of Seth's actions. And this is just a screenshot of Seth joking about throat fucking a 4-year-old until they cry. So now we're getting into the counter arguments. This is going to be spicy. So I'm sure a lot of you who have you've been sitting there like really tensing your chairs, just like, oh man, fucking like you're ready to fucking argue, you're ready to defend your father and all that. I get it. Let's go over the common counter arguments first, because I'm sure that we've covered probably something that you're thinking. And finally, we will be covering common counter-arguments Seth and his followers have given to the information provided. We obviously cannot address every single argument made by every single person, as some we've covered at length in our previous stage discussing the matter. We will, however, address any major concerns that have been brought up and seem to be common, right? Counter-argument 1. It's just a prank, bro. When Seth isn't making dubious claims about the provided evidence being fake, he usually falls back onto admitting everything that actually did happen, but that every sexual interaction was just a joke. We can see that in the Trini screenshots provided earlier. Trini, who isn't necessarily on board with us, even dismissed this very argument as nothing more than a disingenuous excuse for his repugnant behavior, because that's exactly what it is. Jokingly requesting CP from a child and ironically coercing them into doing so by saying, "It would be between us and, I wouldn't think any less of you if you did," is fucking disgusting, period. There is absolutely nothing okay about this, joke or not. Additionally, Seth had no idea whether she would have actually sent photos or not. Especially due to the fact that adolescents tend to be more impressionable. Anyone who is or came out of adolescence is aware of that. There was no indication given explicitly or implicitly that the humor was involved at any point. Even if we were to be charitable and say that it was a joke, he never attempted to make this clear. And satire herself certainly did not detect any humor at all. This should go without saying, but this also does not justify the act of publicly bragging about having seen nude photographs of her in front of others in a public server. Because, well, even if it was a joke before, that's not a joke at that point if you're bragging about it in front of other people, publicly mortifying them. And this excuse is so mind-bogglingly fucking stupid that I have no choice to believe. Absolutely, I have no fucking choice but to believe that these people are being paid off. Oh wait, shit, they actually are being paid off. As we already saw in the Jade screenshot. So, yeah. And I genuinely wrote that part before I knew that people were actually potentially being bribed, right? So, that's pretty funny. So, counter argument number 2. 16 is the legal age of consent in Australia and in some US states. Now, both Seth himself in the video that we provided, and Aeroflame even, have made this claim to justify Seth's actions, arguing that because the age of consent in a given jurisdiction would at face value make pursuing a minor legal, that we ought to dismiss this issue entirely. That's their position. And here's a screenshot of Aeroflame talking with Ace in DMs. He says, "We have laws for this. 16 is legal in Australia." Where is satire from? Australia, right? So, this position can be effectively discredited in 2 ways. Firstly, Seth himself never explicitly stated he desired to have intercourse with anyone he sexually harassed. He either flirted with them or requested nude photographs. Sexting is not protected under Australia's age of consent, nor is it federally protected within the United States. This isn't even accounting for the fact that since communication between Seth and Satire was international, that this makes the national consent laws of each country effectively meaningless on their own. So what I mean by sexting not being protected under Australia's age of consent is that even if you can have sex, or even if you can be with a 16-year-old, you can still not distribute photographs of them. That's considered child exploitation. And in fact, Seth even agreed with this. Remember, he said that it would be low-key illegal if he distributed Satire's photo in the chat. So he was aware of the distinction between age of consent and sexting. So this isn't an argument he can use, nor is it an argument that Aeroflame can use. But it is important to note that this document does not make a legal insertion. We believe that legal assertions belong in the courtroom and in private. But rather, Aeroflame and Seth both require an explanation as to how the law actually works. They began the conversation of legality. We are simply correcting them. Secondly, we would like to point out the difference between a legal and ethical claim. I talked briefly about this in the previous stage, but it seemed to not permeate, I guess, because I still have these fucking buffoons arguing this position. Simply stating that a law would prevent you from receiving punishment for something is not necessarily the same as justifying that action. An action can be unethical and legal, or ethical and legal. Legality does not equate to morality. If someone were to take this line of reasoning to an extreme, they could easily point out Nigeria, which has the lowest age of consent of any nation at 11 years old. Even though this is legal in that country, it is clearly not ethical. Do I need to say more? No? Good. Simply stating that a law allows you to do something is not sufficient reason to justify that action. And I can't believe I have to actually say that. Unbelievably fucking stupid. Number 3. Satire's story is inconsistent. This is a claim made by Seth in the audio recording provided previously. He claims that she dramatized the situation by bringing in talks of a hotel, among other things, in reference to the screenshot where he talks to her about, traveling or whatever, right, that I provided earlier. This is despite the fact that he never actually provides evidence of her dramatizing the story in this way. Seemingly, this seemingly originates from the depths of Seth's flatlined brain. Regardless, this inconsistency claim has also permeated among others who seek to defend Seth's actions and to undermine those who are speaking out against him and those he enabled. The main issue with this claim is quite simple, actually. No one can, nor has been able to provide any empirical evidence of contradictions or inconsistencies in her story. You can't claim a story is inconsistent unless you find inconsistencies within it. No one has.
Get back on my stream if you were on it before. Oh, wait, everybody's still here, right? All right, never mind. My shit crashed, bro.
Okay.
Keep going.
Yeah. No one can, nor has been able to provide any evidence of contradictions in her story. You can't claim a story is inconsistent without finding the inconsistencies within it. No one has. Seth and his followers have blindly pushed this narrative with absolutely no evidence to support it. There is no real argument here for me to respond to because it's a baseless claim. There's nothing for me to argue against. But in fact, I'd like to emphasize the fact that her story has been incredibly consistent from the start. Here is her earliest account of this screenshot, for example, which has absolutely no contradictions with her current story. So, deleted user because she deleted her old account for an unrelated reason, as we already established in the last Discord stage. She sends me, actually, a screenshot, the exact screenshot of Seth saying, "It sucks you live in Australia. I mean, I have enough money where that doesn't matter." She sent this to me. This is the first time I believe she sent it to anyone. She says, "I'm dead, yo. I need to read up on these more. I'm sleep." So basically, me and her start making fun of him. I got enough money where that doesn't matter. This nigga Seth trying to flex. I got money. So gross. Cringe. So gross seems fairly in line with how she currently feels about the situation. No inconsistency to be found. No claims being made are exorbitant or dramatized. Weird, huh? When she sent me the screenshot, she states it was because she was going through her DMs with Seth and found them. So here's another screenshot. So hiatus x hiatus is sent her a message on Saturday at 17 o'clock because she's using a 24-hour clock.
For him.
Yeah.
Great shit.
What was that? I don't know what the fuck that is. So hiatus x hiatus says, "Hey, I hope you have some solace in me getting to yell at Seth. I'm sure that would ideally have been Aro, though I don't think Seth wants smoke from Aro. Wait, what's this?" That's satire saying that. Hiatus x hiatus. I got into a bit of a yelling match with Seth recently. I'm actually hoping to have another one, but not only for a small part of a larger conversation. His hiatus was only recent. I say I would have loved to see that go down. Damn. I would have too, is what satire says, or I would have TBH. I'm disappointed I missed it. Even though I'm not like that in that debating era / whatever the fuck it is era. Now, if memory serves me right, hiatus x hiatus is Trini. But regardless of who it is, she approved of him openly berating Seth for his actions, exactly the same as now. No more extreme, no less. No claims about that are inconsistent. And ironically, Trini's positions are the ones that changed over time. I wouldn't necessarily call them inconsistent, mind you, but they've changed over time. I'm not going to go over my conversation with her from start to finish. Hell, I didn't even have to provide what I did, as the opposition never gave examples of these supposed inconsistencies they claim to keep finding. But suffice it to say, satire has been consistent from the very beginning and kept true to her story. Reality doesn't bend with time. The screenshots are fake. That's the fourth claim that is often made. Now, I've pointed this out several times, but never mind the fact that Seth himself doesn't even consistently remain on this position, acknowledging that the events occurred in various citations. But that when he does feel like making this excuse, he uses an argument so horrendous that anyone who has used Discord for more than 24 hours can see through it, referring to when he tried to make an argument regarding the profile pictures when that was so obviously due to the fact that screenshots were taken at a later date. Actually, when we put it like this, Seth's story is starting to sound pretty inconsistent, isn't it? Regardless, many have claimed that the screenshots provided are somehow faked. Whether that be through Photoshop, HTML manipulation, usage of alts, or otherwise, the method doesn't really matter. Denial is the first stage of grief after all, and I'd be pretty grief-stricken if I found out my payment of wacky bucks from Seth might be getting compromised. Trini, claims that satire and myself claimed a bunch of shit and claimed to have evidence, but that we turned our back on those claims and swore we never had them. So this is the screenshot where he says this. I won't read out the whole thing because, well, actually, you know what? I'll read out the whole thing. The grooming shit was attributable to Abraham and satire. They claimed a bunch of shit and claimed to have evidence before immediately turning their backs on those claims, swearing they never made them. They did to me and another person. Oh, to be clear on what he said, he asked Satire, who was 16 when he was 20, to send nudes and made sexual jokes towards her, apparently. This was jokes as confirmed by several people who were friends with them at the time. I don't know who these friends that he's referring to are, but the only people who have ever claimed that they were jokes were Seth, or people who heard from Seth that they were jokes. But people who were there at the time, I have not heard any testimonials. But I'd be happy to hear some if they exist, but at no point have I ever heard them. But this first claim, if we take it at face value anyway for what he means, is just simply false. I still have access to the group chat where they both where I showcase the very same screenshots you've seen here today, right? At no point am I obscuring anything from them. I showcase the same screenshot, or rather, Satire showcases the very same screenshot here of her speaking with Seth that I just accounted for earlier, and I send the same screenshots of the earlier conversation where he asks her for nude photographs. So, and I even left my DMs open For anyone who wanted to contact me privately if there was any more concerns or questions regarding the conversation as a whole, including the discussion about Seth. I said, gonna clear out this chat since the talk concluded. If y'all have anything else to go over, DM me about it. Peace. And I cleared out the chat and kicked everyone out. Either Trini does not remember the conversation at all or is actively being deceitful when referencing it. Either way, his claim isn't truthful and therefore can be dismissed. Trini also reiterates the claim that Satire's supposed dramatization of her story mentioning the same hotel that Seth does. Interesting, huh? Just to read out that part, since this message is kind of long, you can read out the whole thing yourself on the document. He says, low-key, I do think Satire is hamming it up. She flat out made shit up. Oh, man. Like Seth promising to fly her out to Australia and having a hotel arranged or some shit. This is and actually, for those who are noting at home, right, this is exactly the same claim that Seth made during his conversation with Tryharder in the audio recording. To a T, they both bring up this weird hotel story. Doesn't it seem a bit odd that both Trini and Seth mentioned this exact same supposed inconsistency within a day of each other, and neither provides any citation for where or when this supposedly was claimed? Nevertheless, again, just like before, there's nothing for me to argue against because there's nothing to go off of. There's nothing for me to dismiss or argue against. There was never an argument to begin with. So for the rest of the screenshots, I was initially going to go one by one and explain why it would be difficult, the process of why it would be difficult to fake them. Like the initial I would bring up things like the initial screenshots of Seth's DM with Satire, utilizing the macOS feature that allows you to capture a specific window, including its drop shadow, which would take considerable effort to recreate artificially or alter. Or how when I ran forensics myself over a known legitimate screenshot that I could not detect any difference visually at all compared to the screenshot provided of Seth asking or insinuating that he would travel to Satire. So I ran the same forensics website that Trini claimed that he ran, or rather ISTA claimed that Trini ran. And I forget what the tool's name was. If I pulled up the website, I could actually. So let me just pull it up real quick. Yeah, I used this tool right here, error level detection. Yeah, so I used error level detection, and both screenshots appear identical. That's because both screenshots were taken with an iPhone, by the way. An iPhone has a different way of rendering fonts than Android phones and Windows PCs. So fonts will appear smoother. That's why there was a discrepancy in how it appeared before. But when you actually account for that and compare it to another iPhone screenshot rather than a screenshot from a different device, it looks it looks identical at that point. As you can see, this is a known screenshot. This is the screenshot that people claimed was fake, excuse me. Keep in mind as well, these are so similar, despite the fact that this one was taken on an older iOS version than this one, because this is an older screenshot, obviously. So even despite that, they still look similar. I think, however, it would be more effective to address and dismiss each denial on a case-by-case basis. Covering every single screenshot we provided in detail would lengthen this document unnecessarily, and we've already reached 38 pages at the time of me writing that. It actually was 40 pages, I believe, in the end. The rest can be saved for the Discord stage, so here, I'll actually be talking more about various screenshots here as well after I'm done reading, and future discussions on the topic. So, like I said at the beginning of this counter-argument section, we can't possibly cover every single claim thrown at us in this document. The unfortunate reality is that people can throw shit at a wall and see what sticks for a virtually endless amount of time, but the time and energy it takes to thoroughly discredit all of it would be unimaginable. We don't see it as a valuable use of our time to argue against perpetual denial. We will cover the important topics and dismiss things that are easily debunked and even not so easily debunked, but we can't literally cover every single thing for obvious reasons. It's simply not within our ability. Instead, we welcome those who can utilize their mind, possess common sense and intuition, and are willing to see a person for who they truly are in spite of their biases. And that doesn't even necessarily mean agreeing with us. That just means being able to understand and have a conversation with us, which most people are unable to. If you notice that most altercations we've had in the past couple of days have been extremely confrontational due to the fact that people do not possess that ability, do not possess common sense nor intuition, nor can they utilize their mind. In conclusion, we provided a wealth of evidence and arguments to support our case, and we say unequivocally that we substantiated our position. Seth the programmer's behavior and actions are appalling. This cannot be emphasized enough. But the reality is that he is at the forefront of this community and is an influential figure. I would never deny that, and you certainly wouldn't either. Influential figures, at least in my opinion, should be people we aspire to be and people who inspire us, and Seth is neither of those things. His actions establish a terrifying precedent for what is and isn't allowed within this community. There will certainly be people who read this and aren't convinced. And I'm sure some of you are here right now.
Telling me the side of your story, right? So yeah.
Okay, I just wasn't like, I'm also just trying to convince you as well, because I'm not sure what you know, right?
I know you're trying.
Okay.
But I know you're trying, but like I said, if you can just wait out, all right? And what I would like to do here is, if you could actually publicly come in a neutral server and actually speak this out, because your audience is still waiting for you. I'm just saying, your audience is waiting for you to because people, a couple of your fans still think that you're this pedo, and I think it too, because I used to watch your videos and shit, but now I don't know, man. I don't know. Anyways, go ahead and explain your story.
Okay. Well, the story is the only piece of evidence that's really presentable is this whole nudes thing, and then I posted this goofy ass emote, right? So the context of that is that there's a guy named Nate who had a crush on Satire, and basically me and Satire used to be in these calls with, say, Bucky or Cheese or Nate or whoever was up at nighttime in the old server. It was 4 years ago, whatever. We used to have these calls or whatever. It was a public server. And so because Nate had a crush on Satire, we used to send him screenshots or whatever to make fun of him. Oh, nudes? Hey, Nate, what do you think of that? And he would get mad or something, as an example. And that's why we're using goofy ass emojis and shit like that. It's clearly taking the piss or whatever. And Trini himself will tell you that there's a lot of context proving everyone around us knows that yes, it was very much of a joke. There's these screenshots of me in Emperor's Palace, of Soli getting mad at me, you pedophile. I'm yes, dude, I'm thinking about our pancake areola, Soli. I'm just taking the piss because it's not genuine. And that's when me and Satire still had our real accounts or whatever. You know what I mean? A lot of it was clearly taking the piss. And on top of that, a lot of their stories are changing. Satire will say shit Seth was going to get this particular hotel and come try to fuck me in it or something. And then she provided no evidence. And that's why Trini dropped it numerous times. And then me and Trini have debated the topic 4 times now, and it doesn't go anywhere for a reason. It just doesn't work that way. And I know people are oh, when we get their original accounts, everything will change. And it's no, because when me and Trini debated, the original accounts were still there. You know what I mean? So people are thinking oh, because the original accounts will be found, everything will change. It's no, the only thing that changes is random people Ista. Can't just debate with weird arguments, whatever. You have to debate with what we actually know from the chat. And even then, me and Trini just agreed. It was very skeptical and then leaning onto my favor, if anything. So that's all you can really say about it, because at the end of the day, it is he said, she said, a lot of it. So that's unfortunately all it boils down to. And there's not a lot of solid proof for either side. So it is weird. And that's why I said at the worst, it's like a 2 or 3 year difference from a place where she is of legal age of consent. So it's like, at worst, it just makes me weird. And then at best, it's just hazy and in my favor. So that's all you can really say about it.
All right. I have one question.
Okay.
How old are you? Be honest. Like, be insanely honest. I don't want you to lie, like, on your old Twitters. I don't want you, like, just be honest with me. How old are you right now?
I just told you, didn't I?
No, say it again.
Okay, because Satire is 21.
No. You're old. How old are you? How old are you?
I'm 23.
You're 23 years old. Are you sure about that?
Yes, maybe even 24. Ooh.
All right, I see. No,
but not 28.
No, it's okay. Just okay. I just wanted to hear you.
Maybe 22 or 25. I'm kidding.
Okay. Anyways.
But like I said, the age between me and Satire isn't that different. We'd go to the same high school. Like I said, there's a lot of evidence that proves it's really not all that. It was dropped numerous times. Fucking Dick Raham, ass cheeks, has hated me for 8 years, and he's been trying to say I'm a pedophile for 4 fucking years. Hasn't worked any time. Jade and Trini have brought this up numerous times and have dropped it numerous times. So that's that. Like, I don't know what else you need. Like, I avoided you guys at first because like there was like a swatting thing or something.
Oh, no.
So like I was like, they're like, get Seth in the group chat. I'm like, wait a minute, are they gonna try to fucking swat me when I get in this group chat, bro? So like, I'm not gonna lie, that's why I did avoid it, because like Trini will tell you this too. Like whenever Trini would confront me, I'd be like, all right, let's fucking hash it out, right? Like we're just gonna like argue about it, and we did every time. You know, she said bullshit until like we get into a fucking call, like, you know what I mean? Like, so I don't know. Hope to hash it out that way, but otherwise, this shit's just weird. Like, I don't think the whole Seth's a pedophile thing is going to go anywhere. I think it's just annoying that people call me a pedophile for a month and then they move on. Like, it's kind of irritating. You know what I mean? So, yeah.